Welcome, everyone. Can somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, great. And I am going to do a screen share. Okie dokie. Do you see a PowerPoint slide?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a list of participants blocking at all? No?
No.
No, just the slide. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I'm going to be calling on each of the commissioners, and I have my list, my participant list. I wanted to make sure it wasn't blocking your view. So yeah, thanks everyone for being here. And just a very quick, very super quick, I know we've seen these before, but very quick overview of our group agreements and guiding principles. So we'd like to just quickly remind you to focus on our common goal. Our purpose is to build and strengthen partnerships and community relationships. Please be open to new ideas and perspectives, and we'd like you to participate and be self-aware. So one mic, and I think folks do a beautiful job on this commission of abiding by those agreements and principles. So our guiding principles here are to recognize systemic racism and social inequities, support learning and innovation, and promote transparency, as well as focus on action and systems change. So for the next few minutes, I think we have about 15 minutes or so. Please, I apologize in advance if we get cut off. We usually get like a minute or 30-second heads up, so I will let you know whoever's speaking at that time. So I think what we will do now is we would like to hear from you. We got two presentations, one on the response team strategy or program, and the second on the community navigator strategy. And so we'll spend about like 8 minutes getting your feedback on the response team. So when we talk about the strategy 2.1, create a response team for mental health crises, substance use, and homelessness, focused on conflict management, de-escalation, and linking people to supportive services. The question we want to ask each of you is, what considerations and recommendations do you have to ensure that racial and social equity are at the center of the implementation of this strategy? So thinking about the response team strategy. And I think, one of the ones that was already mentioned during the presentation, one of those considerations is working with the Gardner Center to include racial equity as an evaluation focus. So really tracking race ethnicity demographics of folks who are arrested, diverted from arrest, and of people arrested. So any other considerations or recommendations that you might have to ensure racial and social equity? And I'll start in the order that I see my commissioners on the screen. Chair Buenaflor, Nicolas.
Sure. So in order to make sure that there is racial and social equity in the implementation of this strategy, we have to make sure that regardless of the ethnicity, gender, or economic status of the person being apprehended or being helped, that there is respect for who they are, and they will not be given special privilege because of the perceived status, education, economic status, or ethnicity of the person that they are helping.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you so much. So I'm just going to do a high-level summary. Respect for the person regardless of their demographic profile and perceived status. Okay, thank you so much. Commissioner Mike Futrell, what comes up for you? What considerations do you think need to be ensured?
Sure. One thing I'll be watching is I'm hopeful the total number of mental health 911 calls will go down. Just that raw number. If we're more proactive in working the mental health issue, then perhaps people will not have the mental health episode to start with. And there are other initiatives that I'm working with the county on to help make that happen. But really, this element of police work, if you will, is a societal failure in the United States to adequately understand and address mental health. And as a result, you have people having mental health episodes, and then 911 gets called, and then it goes down from there. So the clinician in the in the police department is essential, but the root cause is really being more proactive. So if this individual, hopefully they will have time and we'll set a system where they can work with people proactively to avoid the mental health call to start with, then there'll be fewer 911 calls. And that's when theoretically somewhere in the future, you're able to de-escalate, the whole police budget and all of that, because there's fewer 911 calls. So there'll be a lot of metrics around the actual call itself and the service and what happens and the outcome. And that's important. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that the real goal here is to prevent the call from happening in the first place.
Great. Thank you so much. Commissioner Pat Murray, what comes up for you? What considerations do you think need to be ensured?
I think I read that the clinician would be training the police officers on certain parts of their job, including de-escalation. So I think that would be really helpful. And then, my thought is anti-bias training, because we all come to our place in the world with biases, and I think that would be really helpful.
Beautiful. Did I miss any other commissioners? I think I see Commissioner Pat Murray, Mike Futrell. I think we had Chair Nicholas, but I'm not seeing her now. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see if she comes back on. Any other thoughts that the two of you might have I know the other kind of second part of the question that Kim posed at the end is, are there any other outcomes that you'd like to see? And I know that I started to identify some of them, reducing total number of calls, as a real goal of the strategy, and perhaps like number of trainings and on de-escalation and anti-bias. Is there anything else that we want to see as far as outcomes?
Let me just
Go ahead.
Let me unmute for a second to say that Flor Nicholas has texted me that her cable has gone out. So I don't know that she'll be able to join us or not. FYI.
Thank you for that.
I think the decrease in 911 calls would be a good outcome, but I think that, but also, I think seeing the culture, the change in culture will be evident. And so if you're looking at data, you look at the 911 calls and all the other things, but I think that there will be an overall culture that our community will be able to see. Culture change.
Great. Anything else you want to add, Commissioner Mike Futrell, before we move on to the second?
I just want to validate that last comment. By having only police respond to mental health, I can see where it creates a community culture that it's a criminal matter. By having, a mental health clinician respond, that does give the outward appearance that it's a health crisis, which is really what it is. And so I do think that is important to emphasize, and we should find ways through our other communication channels to make that point. So that was a very good observation.
Great. Okay, getting a message that we need to move on to our next one. Okay, so right on time. All right, so the Community Navigator program, so the strategy is expanding linkages and navigation support for priority populations and building trust between the community and the city of South San Francisco. What comes up for you, Commissioner Pat Murray? What considerations or recommendations do you have to ensure that there's racial and social equity in the implementation of the Community Navigator program?
Well, one of the things that I think that we could do is we could partner with the school district. We have 8,400 students and you know, thousands of families in our school district. And we have 3 Title I schools. So many of them are English language. I think 40% of our kids are English language learners. So, I mean, I think partnering with the school district would be great.
Beautiful. And do you see that when you say partnership, what does that partnership look like to you?
You know, I'm not exactly sure, but I think you reach a lot of students. You know, we would be able to reach a lot of families. And if the idea is that we're going to get this information out to our community and work with our community and make them feel a part of the community, you know, that's a good place to go.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. What about you, Commissioner Mike Futrell?
First, thank you for that offer, Pat. Take you up on that. It's a great idea. I am really excited about this prospect, and it absolutely grew out of this commission and only this commission, because I heard so stridently in the very beginning about how some of our communities felt disconnected and unheard and unrespected, and that their needs were not being addressed. And so I'm hopeful that by having culturally appropriate and language appropriate people embedded in the community, where they can gain some trust in the community, and then listen, deliver those messages back to city government or other agencies, and then equally important, help that community understand the safety net that is out there, that they can take advantage of, that I think many don't. And those barriers are certainly language, but also there's a cultural fear that our former president stoked. And we need to find a way to reconnect with that. So hopeful that this can do that. As far as metrics, I like the one that was mentioned in the broad group of, is there a way to track, or is this group actually more engaged with services? You know, objectively, are they taking advantage more of programs that are designed for them to help them? But a lot of it will be qualitative, not quantitative, on you know, really, are we hearing more from these communities as we move forward? But this has a lot of promise. We're going to put a lot of work, a lot of resources into it to try to make it work, to connect the gaps.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Welcome back, Chair Nicholas.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my internet cable gave up. We don't have anything here at home right now, but I'm using my phone and another iPad, so hopefully this will work.
Okay, well, we can hear you great, so thank you so much for reconnecting. So I think we just would love to hear you plugged back in right on time. Any considerations on the Community Navigator strategy? Anything that comes up?
Yeah, so for the navigators, like what we have used for the census, I think we should also use different places where we know there's a lot of people in need. For example, you know, places of worship are places where people of faith are. Usually it so happened that if the people get desperate, all they have is their faith to go to, and so therefore you can usually find the people who would be vulnerable in places of worship.
Great. Thank you so much. And I think our time is up for the breakout room. So we'll